Good morning, everybody. Happy week after family reunion. I hope you're all rested from all your travels. Thank goodness we didn't have to go anywhere last week. Goodness.
I was waiting for someone else too. I didn't want to be first.
So we're going to get started. We're going to start with, and I think they're all there. I hope they're all there, but we're going to start with our three newest family reunion members, which is Allie, Lisa, and Melody. Are you all in the training room? I see a hand raised. Yay. All three of you? Okay. Wish my eyes were better. So if we could just, who's ever got the microphone, if you'd like to just start, we'd like to find out, as a first-time attendee, what was your favorite session, either a general session or breakout, and why?
My favorite breakout was about farming. It's something that I really want to do, and they had some good tips about that, not just farming to the people in the neighborhood, but also farming to the schools and farming to the businesses, and getting as many touches as you can throughout the community, not just the residents in the community.
Can you do me a huge favor while you still have the microphone? Can you please introduce yourself and how long you've been with Capital Partners?
Absolutely. I am Lisa Mitchell, and I have been with Cap Partners since November.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Melody Bohr. I've been with Cap Partners since October. My favorite session was building a solo business to last. So these are agents that are solo agents. They all have staff members at this point, but they had an incredible amount of information on lead generation, and also great information on, at what point to add different people onto their, to their group. So most of the things I'm going to implement right away came from that session.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, and then I'm Allie Nelson. I've been with the business since August. I can't tell if that feels like a day or a year from now. But my favorite session was Onward. So that Wednesday morning general session, that one I think just really resonated with me, just with the market that we have right now, and just with, I think, myself at kind of the stage that I am at with the business, that it was a good reminder that there are 8,000 of us in this market, and that, to send those few emails or to do that really good, campaign once, that's not enough. That's a flash in the pan, and that's not sustainable. So I think that idea of being hyper personal and hyper local, and, there are probably 20 agents, doing the exact same thing that you are. How can you do that just a little bit differently? How can you tweak that? How can you put your own personal brand on it? Just to stick out. So that was definitely my favorite.
All right. Allie, if you want to keep the microphone, can you please share with us what you'll be doing with the information that you learned from Family Reunion, how you'll implement it, and by when?
Wow, that was loaded. Absolutely. So I think the biggest thing that I'm going to implement is really divvying up my database. I think I really resonated with if you're talking to everyone, you're talking to no one. So I think for me, the biggest thing that I'm going to be doing is really taking a look at how can I kind of splice and dice my database to better serve them with what their current needs are right now. I think I have kind of an email cadence that I use that isn't serving me very well. And I think that session was a perfect reminder that it wasn't. So for me, for the month of March is going to be my big push to, I'd like to have at least, 5 different subgroups that I'm emailing, a few different times a month, whether it's putting them on smart plans, whether it's, I have an entire kind of sub database of just local business owners. How can I be, adding to my value prop with them? So beginning in March will be that kind of new implementation of divvying my database and serving them better.
Great. Thank you. Melody, same question. Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay.
Oh,
I plan on taking 1 or 2 ideas and implementing them per quarter. So I've just kind of learned from the past when I would come back from a conference, just trying to implement everything at one time. You know, you're really not doing any one thing well, and I want to make sure that I do it well. So the first thing on my list for the first quarter is my social media presence. So I haven't really jumped into that exactly the way I need to be. I need to get my business page up and running, and so you know, I have a lot of really great ideas from the agents from Family Reunion about how I'm going to do that. The next thing that I'm going to do is really concentrate on referral business. We talked a lot about referral business. And so because I'm newer to Columbus, I felt like I have some challenges in building my database, but the reality is my database has hundreds of people from all over the country that I have relationships with. So, and many of those in real estate. So I think that's an opportunity for me to start building some referral business. And then the third thing that I'm going to do this year, so this will be a little farther down the line when my database is a little more robust, is events. You know, I heard on more than one occasion that Sometime Event was the #1 lead generation that these agents had outside of their, repeat business or referral business. So that's going to be the 3 main things I'm going to implement this year.
wonderful. Thank you.
Just to piggyback kind of on what both of them said, for me, in being new to the business, it is narrowing down my database, trying to sort out where people are in their lives and how I can serve their needs that they have. And like Melody said, there were so many great ideas that you can't do everything at once, and you're not serving yourself and you're not serving your database and anybody in your sphere by trying to implement everything at once. And so for me, it's more about just getting a plan, my short-term goals, my long-term goals for the year, and what I want it to look like at the end of the year, and picking out the things that I learned that are going to get me to the end goal. And I had something else I wanted to say, but I forgot what it was.
And Melody, Glenn Moog in our office has a very, very robust referral business. And he might be willing to answer a couple questions if you have them. He's been very successful with that.
Thank you.
That was the other thing that I wanted to talk about too, was the referrals. We are a prior military family, and I literally know people all over the world, and I'm going to be bringing all of those people in and get them all in my database.
Hi. Yes.
Lisa, do you still have the microphone? Oh,
Yes.
Okay. So Family Reunion, obviously this was a new and different year for many of us. Typically we have somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 to 25 agents that will join us at Family Reunion on an offsite location. With it being digital this year, we actually had almost 80 agents in our market center that signed up for Family Reunion. And it's typically an expense of about $2,000 by the time you add the hotel room plus the registration plus flight time and then meals, et cetera, while you're there. So I think this was a really incredible opportunity for a lot of people to attend. And I guess what I would like to know as first-time attendees, what would you tell someone who's never experienced Family Reunion before?
I would first start by saying it's awesome. It's just a great opportunity to network with other agents. You just learn so much from all of the masterminds and the breakout sessions. If I had to have paid the $2,000, it would have been well worth it. It would have not have been a regret for me. It's very well organized. There were a few little glitches with the technology, but not anywhere what I expected there to be. And, with them having the flooding and all of that stuff going on in their homes. Feel bad for them, but it was great. It just went off without a hitch.
Mhm. Thank you. And thank you for I was going to ask you, would you have spent that amount of money to go? So thank you for answering that for me.
So I think what I would tell people is that first off, I think really your ROI is all dependent on yourself. That I think you can go those 3 days and you can either, make the most of it. That I think you need to be in a very specific mindset for it, because you're drinking from a fire hose. There's lots of information going on. So I think, the first thing that I would tell someone is you have to be ready for information overload, and, but in a positive way. That there's a lot going on. There's different business levels, myself and my listing partner, we're both kind of in similar parts of the business as far as, our age, how long we've been in real estate. And so, you have to be willing to kind of get creative a little bit and unpack things and figure out what's going to work for you, what's not going to work for you. And I think it's really, you'll get 10,000 out of it if you're paying attention, you're attending the breakouts, you're taking the time to unpack it. Our team every morning, we would go through and talk about our takeaways. We would talk about what made sense for us, what made sense for our market. And I think that's really where you get that investment. You can hear the fancy buzzwords, you can hear, be unique, be this, hyper local, hyper, constant, but what does that mean and how are you going to make it work for you on a daily basis? So it's just a promise you have to make to yourself that you're going to give those 3 days your all, and then you will get 2,000 or more out of that experience. So you decide how much you get out of it for sure.
Thank you.
I think that regardless of what profession you're in, I think you have to be a prolific learner to really be successful, especially in the beginning. And so, well, I shouldn't say especially in the beginning, that never ends. So the 2,000, I would have absolutely paid the $2,000 to go and do it face to face outside of, any COVID concerns, of course. So I was thrilled to see that they still found a way to have the conference and to provide incredible amounts of education opportunities for all of us. I think, the cost of any type of education for the most part, $2,000 is less than one deal. I mean, there's no question you're going to get one deal and beyond from that kind of experience. So I am looking forward to being able to meet other agents from around the country face to face. That'll be awesome next year. But I was really very thankful to have it, and I stuck to my computer pretty much the entire week, outside of when I was here watching it.
Wonderful. I don't want to put the three of you on the spot, but based upon your experience with Family Reunion, we're certainly hoping that you'll consider attending Mega Camp with us in the fall. And we'll see as we progress through vaccinations, et cetera. We're hoping it'll be in person, but if not, they certainly knew how to deliver it to us digitally.
Oh, yeah.
I was under the campus
Is Rachel on here?
I am.
Can you mute a couple of people for me, please?
Yeah, let me log into their account.
Thank you. So first off, I'd like to, again, thank Allie, Lisa, and Melody. I appreciate you participating. I appreciate you coming to Family Reunion and sharing all your awesome ideas. And I'm looking forward to seeing where this year takes you. Next up, we're going to move into three agents who have been to Family Reunion before, and that is Mary Sunderman, Eric Ransom, and Jonathan. Is Jonathan on, or is he in the training room?
Training room.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. So you get to hog the mic.
Yes, I do.
Thank you. So for starters, I don't care which one of the three of you starts. What was your favorite general session and or breakout?
Ladies first.
Well, my favorite session Well, I had multiple, but the one I keep going back to in my notes was the luxury session. So I don't know who all attended that, but I think I liked it so much because while maybe the intent was to go and understand how to appeal to that luxury market, I think the reality is everything they talked about is what we should all be doing regardless of the price point. And that to me was just maybe the assurance, you know, because I've always tried to treat my business that way, whether it's $100,000 listing or a $2 million listing. Are they getting the great service that I would give anyone? And they affirmed that. So I really enjoyed that. And I'll talk more about some of the takeaways, but I'll let the next person speak.
We'll go best looking last. So you go ahead, Jonathan.
I think my favorite part was the database with Gary Keller. I don't remember exactly if that was a breakout or general session, but just the idea that we have the grades in command, but how powerful is your database? Is it an Excel sheet with names and numbers? Is it divided up into categories? What are you doing to add to it, and how are you using it for your business? And like we did have some discussions kind of like every day, and I actually had this one with Mary, ironically, but his analogy of the band in the music industry, right? I think a lot of people are being captivated by the fear and the uncertainty, but if you look at the whole just economics of it, every industry's evolved in one fashion or another. And we're not immune to that. We're part of that. So I think taking the opportunity to embrace it and make the best of it is going to set us apart. But the database is really what's stuck out. And I feel like it's a race against Zillow. That's what I feel like. So that's what it meant to me. But go ahead, Eric.
There was a class called the 5 Choices of Operational Leverage that Gary and Jay Papazon did. And, you know, historically, having been with Keller Williams for a long time, I feel like there's been a big focus on building a 7th level team. And they didn't cast aside people that didn't want to do that, but I never necessarily felt like you were supported if you just wanted to be a solo agent or if you just wanted to have one admin. So this gave you some different options, and it really spoke to the fact that, you know, you need to run a business that you're happy with and that fits what you want to do and what works for your life. And for some people, that could be 10 transactions. That doesn't mean there aren't tools that Keller Williams provides. So it was nice to see that, and I thought that was a good takeaway.
So we'll circle back to Mary. Mary, based upon the information that you learn, what will you implement and when? By when?
This feels like a coaching call.
Yeah.
Somebody wrote really good questions here.
Well, again, I'm going to go back to the luxury breakout, and kind of, you know, in looking at my notes, and this goes back to what Allie said earlier about being hyper local and being hyper personalized. So one of my takeaways was that we need to be building custom insights for any of the groups that we're marketing to, right? So luxury could be one, first-time home buyers could be another. Somebody might want to deal with seniors, whatever that looks like. I think many of us have kind of used the shotgun approach, right? Like, so what's coming out of what's going to our database is everybody's getting the same thing. And I really like this notion of that doesn't make sense, right? Not everybody needs to hear the same message from us. So the one thing that I'm implementing right now is going through my database and tagging people differently. So my VA can market to those people a little differently than we had been. So implementing is happening right now.
Thank you. Jonathan?
Agreed. Already underway. So we kind of took the idea of being unique in that curated content to your database. We have very personal experiences that shaped the way Rachel and I generate some business and think about opportunities and our whys behind different areas of the business that we focus on. And in conversation with Aaliyah, we were talking about generating business. And I was like, I don't know why we just aren't, I'm just going to put all this in a letter. You know how a lot of lenders do a letter to the heart. And I was like, I'm just going to put all this out there. This is real value. This is tried and true. This is what people should be hearing, whether it's real estate or not. It's a powerful connection to your network. And so we did that. And I have it being reviewed right now. And then it should be in implementation by the beginning of next week. So how we're going to use it is it's going to be mailed out to our database, and then we're going to back it up probably 2 weeks later with an email. But the thing is, when you talk about the messaging, it's coming from our personal experience. So it's not like a branding, right? It's just a showing of who we are and why we're doing this, in case you're interested in learning more or doing business with us. So we're trying to make that unique approach and just be vulnerable. We got nothing to lose.
You know, it's funny, everybody keeps talking about database, and if you go back almost 20 years when, you know, I first started with Keller Williams, Gary Keller was still talking about database. And I remember Ruby Passon, an agent, when I first got in the business, did all her business out of a card catalog. And I was more tech driven, but she ran a really successful business out of a card catalog. I think Jonathan's comment about a race against Zillow, you know, there was a lot of conversation about protecting your database. There was a lot of conversation about, okay, so you do 85 or 90% of your business by referral. What if somebody else takes a chunk of your database and suddenly you're left with, you know, 50% of what you had because they've done these things. They've implemented automatic communication, and triggered communication was another thing they talked about, where certain things happen that trigger that communication. So I think it's really key. I wrote down to work your database, but also protect it. You know, make sure you keep those relationships. But all this artificial intelligence and technology and everything else, it still comes back to that database and communicating with those people. And I think the more specifically you can do it to each person, the more successful it's going to be. But I run a successful referral business and don't do a great job with my database. So imagine, I keep telling myself what I could do if I did that. So this is my year.
Thank you, Eric. Mary, if we could circle back with you, what did you like about the digital version of Family Reunion?
So I love that you can get into the sessions. You know, for those of us who've been to Family Reunion before, many of us have experienced getting locked out of a session we really wanted to attend. And I love that they're there for us to access for the next 60 days. That to me is so powerful, because even when you're fortunate enough to get into some of those sessions at Family Reunion, it's hard to write everything down or to get everything that was said. So to be able to go back and revisit these is awesome. And I like that we got to do it from the comfort of our office or our home or wherever we were. And I really felt that our experience as an office, I think Renee and Rachel and Elise and Joanne and everybody who was working behind the scenes pulled off such a great opportunity for us to come together at the end of the day and share our ideas. And I don't know that I felt that I heard as much when we were actually in person. So it's kind of contrary to what you'd think, that it would be less personal, but to me, I found it to be much more personal.
I actually kind of agree with you, Mary, in the sense that I found myself much more relaxed listening to each session that I wanted to, instead of that kind of tenseness and rushing that comes at Mega Camp and Family Reunion. You know, I found it actually enjoyable, and I've had it with Zoom, you know, like up to here, like all of us have, but actually in this case, I thought it was very useful.
Yeah.
Mary, thank you for mentioning the staff. I think the staff did an incredible job. Even in preparation, somebody, I don't even, if they were in our team or meeting us or something, was like, is there a decorating contest going on? Because the front desk looks so darn good that these girls are knocking it out of the park. So very well said, to give them a shout out for credit. I thought that the flexibility of it did lend to being a little bit more relaxing. You know, I thought that we found ourselves coming together at the end of the evening, and you know, if you participate in the market center, you know, the conversations were about business, not about people. When I think that you're in person and you're out there, you're talking about people, right? Because you're meeting people and you're building relationships and things. So I thought the content was a little bit better. And then I thought the accessibility was what stuck out for me, because it's $2,000, right? Give or take, if you're going to take that trip and you're going to go, but not everybody can go. Who goes, who stays to run the business? You know, what are we doing with that? Or maybe somebody's brand new and you want to take them, or, you know, maybe there's financial implications. So I thought the accessibility made it powerful for, you know, a small nominal fee. Everybody could participate. And our team did a really good job doing that together and absorbing it. So I feel like it served us well.
I
Awesome.
completely
Thank you,
agree.
Jonathan.
I agree with Jonathan on accessibility. And to me, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because there is a really wonderful energy at family reunion. It's fun. People are excited. I found you not only make, you know, you rekindle relationships with people you've known around the country or seen at other events or communicated with or done referrals with, but you also get to know some people in your office better, because suddenly there's 15 or 20 people, you're having a cocktail or going to a class or enjoying dinner or whatever, and you can talk and get to know some people you didn't know. But from an accessibility standpoint, family reunions exhausting physically and mentally, because you have to get from where you're staying to the event, and they're now so large that they're constantly people. You may get to a class and not find a seat that feels good, or not be able to hear well, or not be able to get in. I had a class this year that I plugged into and it wasn't quite what I thought it was. I jumped out, went to the agenda, found something else I wanted to do, and went and followed that. And you couldn't have done that if you were there physically. You either stay or it's kind of a write-off for that period. So there's some good and bad to both of it. But again, and I mentioned this on the happy hour and the dinner, the staff really was able to, in our leadership, keep some of that energy. You know, it was not just a droll, boring thing, and there were people sharing and you know, celebrating the information that we're getting. So kudos to you guys for doing that.
Thank you, Eric. So Mary, not to put you on the spot, but based upon your experience with our digital family reunion, will you be attending Mega Camp, and will you be bringing anyone with you?
Absolutely. Yes and yes. I don't know who that person is that I'm bringing yet, but absolutely. And when these things are in person again, it'll be neat to see how they're able to offer hybrid experiences for us, because I totally agree with Eric. There is something about that energy, and there is something that's so neat about getting to know people that you work with better and differently, and or even people you don't currently work with. But I will most certainly be participating in, I guess I see it as long as there's going to be some opportunity in a hybrid environment, there would be no reason for me to miss any future family reunions or mega camps.
Awesome.
Yes. So we will attend, or if we can't this year, somebody will, right? I personally think that it's such a cool experience in person that to not have our agents or send somebody there is almost a disservice to them. To not get them there, rub shoulders with people across the country doing the same things or similar things. They work so hard and they're in such a bubble that is liberating, that's complimentary. I mean, they feel like $1 million there. So definitely somebody's going.
I will
Can I piggyback off of what Jonathan said?
Yes.
Can I piggyback off of what Jonathan said?
Yeah.
Is that all right? Oh, okay. He was talking about what Gary was talking about, being a musician and letting other people know that you have a gig someplace rather than just hoping somebody walks in or, tying things together. And some of you have heard this story before, but we went to a family reunion in Las Vegas, and it was at that hotel. It was so, you walked and walked and walked and walked. And I went to a session where, and it was a smaller family reunion, but I went to a session and Gary Keller was going to be there, and he was going to talk about lead generation, I'm sure. Anyway, so I'm sitting there and I looked around and everybody had on stickers that said they were veterinarians. And I thought, oh, crud, I went to the wrong thing. So I leaned over the guy next to me and said, "You're veterinarian, who's speaking here?" And he said, "Gary Keller." And I said, "Oh." He said, "All businesses are alike. You have to lead generate. People just don't walk in my office because I hung a sign." And I thought that was interesting and always remembered that. That's the end of that story. You can read.
Thanks, Joanne.
Thank you.
I was going to say before Joanne took over, I love you, Joanne. I will attend Mega Camp, and I honestly found back when I went to Mega Camp, personally, I liked it sometimes more than Family Reunion because at the time it was a smaller event, a little more accessible. But the week before Family Reunion, I honestly was dreading it. It seemed like a lot of time and energy. And the weekend before it, I plugged into the agenda and started putting things on my calendar, and I got enthused. And one of the takeaways is whether it's Gary Keller or any of the leadership, Jason Abrams or Jason Abrams or Josh Team or whoever, there's a calm in the leadership of Keller Williams, and there is a knowledge, and they use data, and they understand our industry so incredibly well with a far, forward-looking eye that you leave that like, okay, I understand what's coming and maybe what we've dealt with in the past, and I'm well equipped to deal with that. And rather than being overwhelmed by all this information that's going to come at you, somebody mentioned implementing one thing a quarter. I mean, honestly, if you implement one thing that's impactful from the 3 days at Family Reunion, that's a win. And one thing could dramatically impact your business. So I think it's fantastic.
Eric, on the implementation, I think part of it too is we get excited because it's new, and we don't want that excitement to wither or fade if maybe it doesn't work out the first or second time, right? So many of these strategies, we have to apply them to our market or our specific conduct of business, and we have to give them a chance to succeed. So we have to be a little bit persistent. It's not you go to Family Reunion and then you learn all the secrets that they have there, and then you come back and you're a top producer, because it's all about your effort and your attitude. But knowing that you can have information overload, we don't want to have a bunch of tools that we can't use. So I know we talk a lot about implementation. Let's give ourselves a chance to succeed as well.
I think there's comfort too in knowing we're not alone facing some of these things, challenges with lead generation, challenges with cleaning up and using your database effectively. I mean, Gary hasn't been talking about it for 35 years because we all have it figured out. And I don't think he plans on stopping talking about lead generation. So we're kind of all in this together and everybody's chasing the same thing.
Thank you, three. I appreciate you. We now are going to move into group 3, which is Joanne Labuda and Susan Whitaker. Susan, are you on? Maybe the Joanne show. And Joanne, you're going to need to unmute yourself.
We have theme music for this show.
I need it.
I'm unmuted, I think. Yeah. Are you going to ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
So first off, can you tell me how many family reunions, who are you, and how many family reunions have you attended?
I'm Joanne Labuda, and I'm with the Labuda team. And I was trying to remember more the ones I hadn't gone to because that would seem a little easier. And I've been to no less than 12.
Awesome. Joanne, what was your number one takeaway from this year's family reunion?
I hoped you'd ask me, and this is short, but I have to show you even this, the infinity. And I think our team does things very well, but we don't, we don't continue it forever. And what they did with the infinity sign is they had a star over here that was when you had the closing. And then you had the star over here when you met the person. And this was, I think, Jason and Josh. Instead of almost being a flat line, I met them. Yes, I carried through and we closed. And yes, we carried through afterwards. It's not the continual relationship. And that was huge to me. And what do we need to do to identify those dots in that infinity sign and then connect them so it's ongoing with the people that are our past clients and future clients. So it was huge to me.
Joanne, which session or sessions will you watch again, and which ones do you recommend to others?
I think that Josh team and Jason Abrams just literally excite me about the business. And I'd have to almost say that they had the biggest impact on me. When Jason Abrams came to Columbus, it was the same thing. I just walked out of there thinking, man, I love what I do, and I love building more, and I love all this stuff. And that was Onward, I think, Onward 21. And, I can't wait to see either of them again, especially Jason Abrams. I wish they both didn't start with J. I had a lot of things that Gary Keller is worth $20,000. Oh, and isn't that funny? That's what we pay. He is very much worth $20,000 or whatever, because he brings it together. And he's been an agent. And I think more than any other leader of other companies, that's what we have. We have a person who was an agent, and he is going to protect us because we need a little protection right now despite his friendly, kind words about Zillow, from Zillow and aggregates like that. So anything Gary Keller goes, he talks about, everybody should go, everybody. So I guess it's my long answer to a short question.
Ryan, may I piggyback on Joanne's?
Yeah.
I don't know if you're going to come back to that question. There was a great class called The 7 Traps Between You and Financial Wealth that Gary talked about. And, it gave you things to think about wealth building, but it also broke down different types of investing, like the stock market versus rental properties versus private equity type things. But, we spend so much time in this business learning how to generate large amounts of income on an annual basis, which is cash flow. We all need to be thinking about wealth building in some form or another. And there's profit share. There's your real estate practice. If you're generating cash flow, but you're also thinking about how to make that a business that you can sell down the road or hand over to somebody else or something like that. So it's really key that we're always thinking about that. And if you didn't see that, that's a good session to watch.
Thank you, Eric.
That was my favorite session too. I mean, it really was, especially when he talked about what is your number? How much money do you have to be done, and satisfied? And there are so few people who actually have a number. And I never even thought about having a number or figuring out a number, you know? And this is kind of, I mean, this is kind of embarrassing since I've been in the business for so very long. But when we talk about goal setting and what we want to do each year, you know, even though, you know, I go through the motions of figuring out my goal and this is what it's going to be, what is really my goal is just to do as much as I possibly can, you know, and that's how I've always thought about it. But I realized after listening to him talk about stuff and talk about the three like tiers of investments of what you do with your money. Like here's dead money that's not earning very much. Here's money that's earning some, and then there's very high earning money. And where do you want to have your money and move it up to? And how do we use the knowledge that we have as realtors to move our money from dead money to money that's actually performing? So I thought it was super impactful.
Thank you, Jill. Joanne, back to you.
Yes, sir.
What will you do with the information that you learned? What will you implement into your business and by when? I know how much you love accountability.
Well, I hadn't thought about the when, and my thing right now is reviewing all this with the team that didn't attend and those that did. However, what I want to review is what we do for clients from beginning to no end and identify those parts and then go back and make sure that's a constant flow. Like I say, that Infinity made a huge impact on me. And I don't think, one thing I did get out of it is that you're never done. You know, if you never can say, oh, okay, this business, I'm doing really well. No matter how many times you've been to this, you see connectors. But up to now, the connectors will have this done by March 15th, mid-March. At least up to where we are. And then we'll go to the next thing, probably March 16th. We've implemented, though, it's sort of part of this, an idea jar. You know, you have all these ideas, you come out of this with so many ideas, you got to throw some in the jar. You won't lose them. You'll go back to them another time, but you can't do everything. So you have to decide, what are you going to do now? And what are you going to table maybe for till the next quarterly meeting?
Thank you. So based upon your digital experience with Family Reunion, will you be attending Mega Camp?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to know what the date is. It conflicts with our family vacation, but if it does not, yes, I will be there. And will I bring somebody? I'm very intent on doing that.
Thank you.
It's too bad we can't bring everybody because it's
I know.
It's awesome.
Thank you, Joanne.
My pleasure.
We have roughly about 31 people on the call today. As we get close to wrapping up, it's about 11:46. I would like to open up the floor to anybody else who attended Family Reunion, and if there's something important that you would like to share that maybe we didn't cover today, if you were a first-time attendee or you've attended multi times. Before we close, I do want to say again, Jonathan brought this up earlier. We have a huge thank you to Lori, Jill, Elise, Renee, Joanne, Rachel, and Mary Sunderman. You all made this Family Reunion experience just top notch, and the swag bags were amazing. I love my blue light glasses. These might be Taylor's, but they're mine now. They're fabulous. So we can't thank you all enough for everything that you did to make this experience so awesome. I was a little disappointed in our panelists in that nobody mentioned that their favorite session was my favorite session, but maybe you're waiting for me to say it. Every year at the end of family reunion, Mo has her inspirational breakfast, and she was able to be there, fortunately digitally this year, because she is recovering from COVID. But if you did not get an opportunity to watch the inspirational morning, please go back and watch it. It is incredible, and it is a session that I will watch multiple times. And then the other thing that was really, I thought they did a fantastic job given everything that they were going through in Texas. My coach she lives in Texas, and my very good friend Myra Oliver lives in Dallas, and I was getting weather reports from both of them on everything that they were dealing with power outages and no water. And every morning I woke up and it was like, please be on. And they were, and they did an amazing job. The one thing that was a little disappointing about not being together and outside of 270 is we don't have any good stories like we've had. The very first family reunion that Joe Jackson and I went to, my leather coat got stolen out of our hotel room. We were joking about that the other day. There might have been something with a jumbo margarita from last year for somebody who will remain nameless. I don't think she's on this call, and her initials might be Darcy Barton, but we can't say, when you're inside 270, you can't say what happens outside of 270 stays outside of 270.
Hey, Brian, can you hear me?
Yes.
One of my favorite family reunion memories is when the doors opened up. I think it was the first day general session, and I'm pretty sure it was Dallas. Here comes the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders down the aisle. I will never forget that as long as I live. That was wonderful. That was one of my favorites.
It was great. Thank you, Pamela.
Brian.
So if anybody else would like to jump in and share, a session or a tidbit that they learned or something they're going to implement into their business.
Is this thing on?
Oh.
Yeah.
So thank you for mentioning the inspirational morning. I've been around Keller Williams. This is the only place I've ever been in real estate is Capital Partners. And for as long as I've been here, maybe 5 years or more, I've been to 2 family reunions, and I watched Mo's inspirational morning. And when I was watching it, I was sitting back listening, and I texted her. I said, Mo Anderson reminds me a lot of you, to Lori. For as long as I've been here, and it's what I've absorbed from Mo, which is just at an arm's length, I feel like we have our own version of that under our roof. And I just think they are so similar in their beliefs and their thoughts. And I don't know, it clicked for me. And I think that was something worth sharing. I know she's not on this call, and that's kind of why I'm saying it. But I feel like we have our own version of that here, and that's not something to take for granted.
Yeah. Thank you, Jonathan.
So, Brian,
yeah.
While we have 31 people on the call, why don't you mention about Myra Oliver and what's going on in our market center and being able to take advantage of that, because she's amazing, and we get her here.
That's what I was going to close with, but I'm happy to mention it. So thank you, Sue, for making sure I didn't forget it, because I probably would. So mark your calendars. A week from this Friday, March the 5th, Myra Oliver, who was our former regional director for Keller Williams in the Ohio Valley region, she has written a #1 selling business book called Down Home Money. And you have to pronounce it just that same way, Down Home Money. And she's a Kentucky girl, and she does talk about your freedom number. And we're going to have her for an hour on March the 5th. So, and it will be open to the entire market center. So please spread the word, bring friends, and mark your calendar, March the 5th at 11 a.m.
You won't want to miss it.
And get her book on Amazon if you don't have it yet.
I thought of mentioning one other thing that I walked away with, and that was the inclusion and diversity, and being anti-racist. And I've struggled for a long time with the fact that how I feel is not how I act, because sometimes I'm just quiet. If somebody says something that they shouldn't, I'll just be quiet. And that's not good enough. And so I came back and was thinking, what is it that and I've talked to Eric about this in the past. And I was going to join the Urban League, not knowing that way above my brain level. But anyway, I am joining the Columbus Board's Inclusion and Diversity. And I'm very, very excited about that, because I didn't know what to do. And now I feel like somebody hopefully will help me with direction. And I can help make somebody have a better life. So that's thanks, Eric.
If I could just piggyback on what Joanne said, that was one of my favorite sessions, and it's called Paving a Path Toward Progress. And I'm big on quotes. I've got them all around my office. And so I walked away from that session with my latest favorite quote. And it was from Daniel Dixon, who is on the task force, the Social Equity Task Force. He's in Denver. He did 322 million last year. And although this quote certainly applies to him, I think it could apply to all of us in some way. And it is, I am my ancestors' wildest dream. And I just thought that was something to aspire to as well for everyone.
Thank you. That was awesome.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that can be lumped in with the inspirational story we saw with, I think his name is Chris, the gentleman with Down syndrome. And their whole, mantra was 1% better. And whether you're new to this business or you're learning a new craft or however that goes, if you can just be 1% better and focus on that versus I've got to do 15 million different new things to be successful. If you just do your 1%, I think that spoke a lot to me also.
Thanks, Nicole.
So speaking of diversity and inclusion, there's a really good book out. I prefer to listen to books like this than read them, but it's called The Color of Law. And for those and it's by Richard Rothstein. And for those that haven't been in the business long, or even for those that have, because my eyes were really open because a lot of this was going on when I first got licensed in the 70s. And how policy has determined kind of where we are today with some of the inequities. It's a really good read, a lot of history about policies and legislation that have led to where we are today. I would encourage you to read or listen to it. It's just amazing to me that we built where we are, or through legislation and through policy, and how we can be the change in the future. And that's by awareness, that's by supporting RPAC and CORE-PAC, and really making a difference who we support politically for change. So just FYI, throw that in there.
Thank you, Sue. Anybody else want to chime in? Tina, you were on all the masterminds. I don't know if you can talk, but. Linda,
I'll
I'm gonna
just
start
say
calling on you.
something that's near and dear to my heart because I do have a biracial family. And I thought it was really important and powerful that Gary Keller gave us a call to action to be anti-racist. And what that means to me is not only talking the talk, but walking the talk. And taking action against things that you see that are injustices and inequalities, and speaking up and being a leader for what you believe in.
Thank you.
Another thing that's sponsored by the board is March 18th from 1 to 2. It's a book club selection, Begin Again by Eddie Glaude, and I may be pronouncing that wrong. But it's going to be a book club that's done by Zoom. And he is the, the James McDonald Distinguished University Professor of African American Studies at Princeton. And he's written a lot of some other books. So that might be something you want to go to, is March 18th, 2021, sponsored by the board.
Can you say the book again and the author?
Yeah, it's Begin Again. And his name is Dr. Eddie. And his last name is Glaude. And he's junior. And I've seen him on television shows, and he's a remarkable person.
Thank you. And that's March 18th?
March 18th, yes, from 1 to 2.
Okay. Thanks.
Before we sign off, I do want to if you could all help me give a warm Capital Partners welcome to our newest agent, Jay Jackson. It's no relationship to Joe, although Joe was responsible for him getting here. But Jay, I see you on the call, so welcome, and I'm glad you plugged in today. Thank you.
Welcome.
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 Sorry.
Thanks, guys. Happy to be here.
Glad to have you, Jay. Thank you. Anybody else have anything they'd like to contribute? If not, it's noon. I just want to say thanks. Thank you to all of you for investing in yourself, for continuing to grow and being on this call, and implement. We appreciate all of you, and looking forward to an exciting new year. Some of the snow's starting to melt. It's supposed to be up in the 50s later this week. Woohoo! So, hallelujah.
Have a good day, everybody.
Have a great week.